Welcome to the Karen Kenney Show.
Hey, you guys, welcome to the Karen Kenney Show. I'm so excited to be here today. And today I have like visual helping aids. Just buckle up for safety. I'm going to tell you a little story. I got some visual aids, and hopefully I'm going to share something today that is helpful to you or that you can apply to your life right away. That's one of the things about this show is besides just trying to spread a little more love in the world, I'm also trying to I always say I want to either educate or elevate or enlighten or entertain, create some sort of emotional connection. Everybody's got shit to do. Nobody wants to waste their time. So if you're tuning in, I want to make it worth your while. So we're just going to start off just by diving into the title of this sucker, which is You Can't Get There From Here. So recently I was down in Lawrence, Mass, which is my hometown. It's where I grew up, Lawtown. And and it was snowing out. It was just like a shit show. There was like so much snow everywhere. And if you've ever driven in like a small little city or whatever, and there's a lot of snow, and the snow banks get all pushed up, and there's nowhere to park or whatever. So I was driving, it was dark, I was in a little bit of a rush, and I was trying to get to a certain place. Okay. And as I was driving, all of a sudden I looked and I was like, oh, yeah, that's the street I want to take. And what I had forgotten, because I hadn't driven on this road in a really long time, in like I'm talking like probably 35 years, if not more, is that there were two streets right after each other that have the similar name. One is like Reservoir Terrace, the next one is like Reservoir Road or whatever. And I banged a left, unfortunately, onto Reservoir Terrace, which was a dead end street. It's a tiny little street. I just saw when I was driving Reservoir and I like whipped in there. And of course, all right, so imagine all the snow, all the houses are like duplexes and triple deckers, and there's barely any driveways. There's no place to turn around, and it's a dead end street. So I'm going down, and I'm lined on each side by cars. Okay. And then in front of me is a car coming towards me when I realize this is a dead end. And I also realize I have no place to back up. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to have to like throw my arm over the back of the seat, over the passenger seat and like back up, like in the dark, in the snow, while there's a lot of traffic coming up Haverhill Street. I was like, oh my God, thank you, baby Jesus at the very end because I was like, I'm going to have to back out into this busy intersection. I don't know how I'm going to do this. But fortunately, right, there was a driveway I could like, back up into, and then the guy in the truck could go right past me. But one of the things I realized and that I heard in my head is that I knew where I was trying to get to, but I could not get there from here because it was a dead end street and I had gone down the wrong road. And it made me think of this old kind of like story, like, and it's, I don't know why it's always usually given like an old Maine farmer, like some farmer from Maine. And there's a couple like driving out, in the, in the land or whatever, and they're driving, and they stop and they see this guy, and on his tractor or whatever, and they stop and ask him for directions, and they're like, "Hey, we're trying to get to so and so," and he's like, "Ah, yeah, but you can't get there from here." That's how it is sometimes. And I want to apply this to our everyday lives. And here's the thing. We often want things, whether it's actually physical things, whether it's internal things, and we'll get more specific in a moment, right? We often want new things, better things, different things, whatever it is. And the problem that most people have is that they're trying to get there, but they cannot get there from here, from where they're coming from, what they're doing, what they're thinking, right? And one of the things is that they aren't willing yet. And I always like to say yet because I believe in the power of the capacity for change, is that we have to be willing to let go of what's familiar. We have to be willing to let go of the here to get to there. And you can't hold on to the familiar, the known, the pattern, the habit, the way that you've been thinking and doing and speaking and behaving, and expect to get the new, different, better thing, the new, different, better experience or feeling or outcome or relationship or whatever it is. We're not going to be able to get there from here if we insist on holding on to the way we've always done things, the way we've always thought, the way we've always believed, the stories we insist on telling about ourselves, our own capacity, and others, the world, etc. And the challenge is that the brain, right? Just the chemistry of the brain likes the familiar. That's how it finds safety. And the nervous system is always seeking safety. So if you have a brain that likes what's familiar, that's how it learns. That's how it kind of imprints on everything around. It's always in comparison and using what we've already experienced, what we already think, what we already know, believe, and the stories we tell, the identity that we have. And it's like going into the new. That's why people are like, their comfort zones, they often don't like to leave them, because even though there might be a better opportunity, a better relationship, a better situation, a better feeling, a better outcome over there, they cannot get there from here. So we have to be willing. And so this is where like the little visual comes in. I did this little drawing, and my sweetie and I were talking about this the other day, and he was demonstrating this. It's so fun. This is a little drawing of my sweetie. So those of you who are listening and not watching, I'm going to describe what's on this piece of paper that I drew. I used to love to draw stick men. That's a whole other story. And we're back. So I used to love to draw stick men to do things. Okay, so I'm going to show you. There's a little stick man, and he has his arms reached out in two different directions. Okay. Now his left arm, and if you're watching this, the left hand is the one with the red arrows, right? And with his left hand, he's holding on to these old things, right? And it's old thoughts, old patterns, old beliefs, old stories, old behaviors, and an old identity. And he's holding on to it tight. He's got a good grip on it. But in his right hand is reaching, and it's like trying to reach across the divide. And on the right side, I just drew some symbols that might, just symbolize some things that a person might want. They might want more time. They might want more love or a better relationship. They might want this little happy face. So there's like a little clock for time. There's a hat for love, relationship, whatever. There's a little smiley face for more happiness, right? Then there's a money sign. Maybe somebody wants more money or more savings or more income or whatever. And then there's a peace symbol. Maybe somebody wants more inner peace or wants more compassion or whatever it might be, right? I also almost drew a muscle, like maybe somebody wants more health or fitness or whatever it is. But there's a gazillion things I could have drawn here. But the point of this little visual is I want you to think about it. This person is so like insisting on holding on. I'm tapping it over here. They're so insisting on holding on to these old ways, this old thinking, this old behavior, this old way of being and believing. And they're saying, right? They'll say like, oh, but I can't reach it. I can't have it. I can't be it. I can't do it. Right? And I'm like, you're right. You can't. You can't do it. Not if you're insisting on also holding on to these old things, these familiar things, these former versions of you, these former ways of thinking and being. And a lot of times what people really want, and my sweetie and I talk about this all the time, is they want the new thing without letting go of the old thing. They want outcomes without doing the work of change. They want transformation without actually doing the things that they need to do, thinking the things they need to think, becoming the person they need to become. Everybody wants change, but most people don't want to change. And so we just want to be able to keep doing the same old bullshit, but have a different outcome. But you cannot get there from here. We have to be willing. We have to be willing to let go of those old ways of being. We have to let go of the old version of you. You got to let go of what you've known and what you've done. And that's that thing where you hear people say, well, that's the way we've always done it. That's the way it's always been. That's just the way they are. That's just the way I am. And I'm like, that's fine. We can say that and we can keep things just as they are. But you cannot get there to that new place, that promised land, that new outcome, that new way of feeling, that new relationship, more money, all those things, if you insist on staying here doing the same old shit. And so I kind of broke it down into like these two sentences that I think can be very helpful. People will say, so at the end of this, just like fill in the blank, right? But the first sentence is usually this: I want to be the kind of person who fill in the blank. And the second response, so the response is, well, then you have to stop being, if you want to start to be the kind of person who fill in the blanks, then you have to stop being the kind of person who fill in the blank. I will give you an example. You might say, I want to be the kind of person who starts getting up at 5 a.m. I would say, then you have to stop being the kind of person who stays up until midnight scrolling on their stupid phone. Because you can't be both. Or you can try, but you're going to be exhausted because you're not going to get enough sleep. You know what I'm saying? Or you might say, I'm making these up. I want to be the kind of person who stops complaining so much, stops whining so much, right? Well, then you have to start being the kind of person who appreciates what they have. You might need to be the kind of person that practices a little more gratitude. You know what I'm saying? It's like, okay, I want to be the kind of person, because they always tell you, you want to have 3 to 6 months of savings in your emergency fund in your savings, right? And you might say, okay, I want to be the kind of person who has an emergency savings fund of like at least 3 to 6 months. Okay, well, then you have to be a person who makes a plan or makes a budget or stops buying shit you don't really need. This is about becoming, and this is about, though, baby steps. Because a lot of times we think, oh, I want to make this change. I want to have whatever it is, more health, more peace, more love, more money, whatever it is, right? More success. Right? I want to have more strength. I want to have better cardio. I want to have less high blood, I want to have better blood pressure, or I want to lower my cholesterol. Yeah, you want to lower your cholesterol? Stop eating all those dead animals and the byproducts of animals, right? That's one of the fastest ways to start to change that. Okay, so but it's about taking baby steps. We can't usually just swoop in and go cold turkey and do 100%. Now, there are certain things you want to go cold turkey on, right? If you want to be somebody who is not, let's say that you're somebody who has, substance use with or substance abuse or substance overuse or whatever with alcohol or whatever. Yeah, those situations, going cold turkey might be really, really smart. But with personality and just patterns and ways of thinking and believing, right? Sometimes we just might want to start or going to the gym or saving more money, right? It's not all of a sudden like you're just going to pull like $10,000 out of your ass. You might have to like little baby steps, you know what I'm saying? So it's about becoming, it's about baby steps. And it's also, here's the big one: becoming the kind of person who baby steps, like build on those tiny little wins, set little goals so that you can actually accomplish them. And then you feel victorious and you get like, yes, I can do this. And you kind of build on your little victories and your successes. And then it's about being able to pause long enough to recognize that you're about to think, say, or do the old pattern. That's one of the biggest things. It's all great and fine and dandy to say, I want a thing. I want to be the kind, my hair is like crazy right now. I want to be the kind of person who, or I want to be able to, or I want to stop or start or whatever the thing is. But if you can't catch yourself in the act, if you're not even aware that you're about to do the thing, at some point, we have to be able to have the awareness, enough awareness to be able to pause and observe our thinking, our saying, our doing, or our about to do. I mean, ideally, if we can catch it before we even do it, before the words leave our mouth, before the ho-ho gets in the mouth, before the whatever the thing that you're about to say, think, believe, do. That's ideal. But even if you can catch yourself in the act and stop yourself, pump the brakes, hit the pause button, that's like really, really, really big. And if we can put a pause in your pattern, right? Your patterns of behaviors or your patterns of thinking, if you can put a pause in your mind so that you can make a different choice, that's like a superpower. And so much of this just comes down to, again, so often, when I think about why I talk about having a DSP and a daily spiritual practice, why it's so important. Because one of the components of at least the way that I talk about and teach and share about having a DSP is that some of the first steps are number one, like slowing down, like helping you and your nervous system so that you can start your mind, your body. So it's like your brain, your body, right? Your breathing, all these things so that we can start to slow down, so that we can actually experience like a pause. We can get in that place. So if we learn how to slow down, if we learn how to deepen our breath, because when we change our breath, we change our physiological state, right? Which also over time will help our mental state, right? And this is why I'll talk about like having a DSP, because learning how to slow down and learning how to meditate. And we often think that meditation is just like quieting all of my thoughts and I have to silence myself and I have to sit very still. Yeah, there are forms of meditation where you do sit still, where you do get quieter. It doesn't mean all your thoughts. We're not trying to silence the mind. Good luck with that, right? We want to quiet it a little bit, turn it down the volume a little bit. But the mind is going to mind. The brain is going to brain. It's going to do what it does, which is it thinks thoughts, right? It does all kinds of things, but one of the things it does is it thinks thoughts, right? But if we can start to slow things down, if we can start to get a little more self-aware so that there's a pause so we can choose who and how we want to be, right? To me, meditation and having a DSP, these are the things that lead to freedom and happiness. Being able to train your mind, train your senses. It's such a powerful thing, okay? And there, like I said, there's a thousand ways to meditate. I have some very simple ones that I teach people. One of the main ones is like passage meditation, which was taught to me from Eknatheshwaran, which is like meditation on a passage. Like it's like memorizing, let's say, the prayer of Saint Francis, right? Make me an instrument of thy peace. Where there is hatred, let me sow love, etc., right? For some people, it might be the Serenity Prayer, whatever it is. You meditate on that passage. The Buddha is said to have said, right, that we become what we think. We become what we meditate on. If we want to be more peaceful, then we meditate on that peacefulness, right? If we want to become more loving, not only do we meditate upon it, but we also practice it, right? We want to become more, like I said, more patient, more loving, more kind, whatever. So passage meditation is really powerful. Repetition of a mantra can be very powerful. A very simple meditation where you're keeping your awareness on your breath. And you can just start with like 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Maybe I'll do a whole little, maybe I'll do a whole other episode on just a little quick little meditation practice. But learning how, right, to just kind of sit your ass down. And again, I know for some people that's sitting still, but there's walking meditation. There's mindfulness, right? Walking with being mindful, or just even throughout your day, having these little moments of mindfulness and connection can be a really big thing. Okay. And we'll get into that. But so much of being able to change, right, is actually being aware that you're doing the thing that you actually don't want to be doing, that you're doing the here when you're trying to eventually get there. And I'm all into be here now, but part of being here now is recognizing, right, what you're doing in the here, what you're thinking, what you're saying, what you're believing. Okay, now here's one of the things. People will often say to me, like, but it's so hard. It's really hard. Like being vulnerable is hard, or being honest sometimes is hard, or speaking my truth is hard, or whatever, fill in the blank, right? We know that when we try to change behaviors, we'll often say, but it's hard. And I'll often say, like, and this was something that, Marianne Williamson used to say at her lectures, and it always made me laugh. And I'm like, yeah, as if being miserable is easy, as if being in that old pattern and way of being is easy, as if your suffering is easy. What's hard is it's not so much, I would say, the easier that you can let go, right, of the old things, come back to this picture, the easier that you can just take your hand off the wheel, take your hand off it, stop doing the old thoughts and patterns and beliefs and stories and behaviors and identity, right? The easier you can just let it go, the easier the next thing can come in. The easier that you just let go of the past, right? The previous, the former, the easier it is for the new you, the new version, the new behavior, the new belief to get wired in, to have a new experience, right? To have the thing that you actually want. It's not often that it's hard, it's that it's unfamiliar, it's new, that seems scary. That's valid, but it's not that it's actually usually hard. And I tell this story, right? So I do this exercise with people. I've done it when I've had speaking gigs and stuff in the past. I'll often bring people or a person up on stage. And I do this in yoga class sometimes too. And I'll have them hold a yoga block. And I have them stick their arms out straight, straight off their shoulders, like straight off their body, like they're walking like a zombie, right? And or they're hypnotized or whatever. That old the old Scooby-Doo hypnotized when your arms are out in front. Okay, so their arms are out in front. And between their two hands, probably about like 6 inches or whatever apart, they're holding a thick yoga block. And I have them hold that block out in, and they're just holding on to it and they're squeezing. And I have them do this for like 5 minutes sometime, but I'm talking to them through the whole time, right? And I'll say, no, no, no. So how is this? How's holding this? And in the beginning, it's not too bad, right? And then over time, their arms start to get tired. Their arms start to shake because I'll say, no, 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 keep holding on. Hold on harder. Hold on harder, right? Of course, the block is symbolizing whatever the belief, the story, the history, the thing, the habit, whatever it is, the addiction, whatever the thing is symbolizing for them, representing for them. And I'll say, no, 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 keep holding on to it. And their arms are starting to shake and their face is getting all like, ah. And I'll say, and after doing this for a long time, and I'll say, okay, now let it go. And they finally drop it. And I'll say to them, how was that? Right? I'll say, which was harder, holding on to the old thing or simply letting it go? And there has to be a certain amount of willingness, right? There's a temptation to hold on to the old thing because we think we're safe there. We think we're safe there because we know this. Even if it's a hell, you're like, I know this brand of hell, right? We're too afraid of like an aspect of something new. It's what we call there's the unsafe known, the thing that you know, even though it may not be good for you, versus the safe unknown. That thing might be safe, but you and your nervous system don't know it yet, don't believe it yet, can't trust it yet, right? So even though the thing over there might be better for us, the person or the situation or whatever, the job, whatever it is might be better, we don't, it can be a little hard. But when you hold on to that visual, and you can even do it for yourself, just get something and stick your arms out and try to hold on to it and squeeze it and get tighter and tighter, like, and then I'm like, and now drop it. Well, letting it go is actually easier. But mentally, we put all these attachments onto it. But remember, the easier that you can let go, the easier it is for the new thing, the new pattern, the new behavior, the new belief, whatever the new story, for it to come in. And it's not hard. It just requires a little bit more willingness. It requires a little bit more focus. It might require a little bit more effort, a little bit more commitment or consistency, a little bit more accountability, right? That's the thing. It's not hard. It's simply unfamiliar. It's simply new. And this is why I said we go back to the baby steps. It's about becoming, right? It's about practicing. It's about those baby steps, those little wins. And whether it's like, as somebody who does Thai yoga massage, right? People will say to me, "Oh, I'm so tight, I'm so tight. I really need to stretch more." And I'll be like, "Well, you can you could always just start stretching on your own. You could always come to one of my yoga classes. You could always come and get a Thai yoga massage. But if you insist on just keep doing the same old shit, which is not stretching at all, and then you wonder why, oh, my hips hurt, my back hurts, my neck hurts, my jaw, everything's tight, right? My glutes are tight, my calves are, everything's tight, everything hurts when I stand, when I move. I'm like, well, are you doing any movement? Are you doing any stretching? Are you doing any flexibility or mobility work? Right? When people are like, "Oh, I can barely carry my grocery." Okay, are you strength training at all? Do you know what I mean? It's like people might say like, "Oh, I want to be stronger. I want to be more fit." Or, you hear it a lot with like as folks are aging and they're getting older and they're like, "I have grandkids now. I can't get up off the floor. I can't even put my socks on without sitting down." I'm like, "Okay, you can keep doing what you've been doing. You can keep telling yourself that story. And look, I'm not saying people don't have real physical limitations. Of course, sometimes you do. You have an injury, you have a situation, whatever. I'm just saying, whatever the thing is, when you say, I want to be the kind of person who, and you fill in that blank, saves money, goes back to church, starts donating more, makes more money, whatever your thing is, right? Then you have to stop being the kind of person who fill in the blank, whatever the old behavior is. But you cannot get there from here without some shit changing. And whether that's the way you're thinking about it, the way you're perceiving it, the way you're going about it, right? Your willingness to stop doing the old behaviors or to start doing, you know what I'm saying? So I want to just share this to help you think about it because, and I'm holding up the picture again. I know so many people who say they want. I'm pointing at this, the peace symbol, the money symbol, the happiness, the connection, the love, the intimacy, more time, more patience, whatever it is. They say they want it, but they're not willing to stop doing the other things. They're not willing to be a little more brave or a little more courageous. They're not willing to be bad at something, like to try and to make mistakes. They're not willing to fall on their face. They're not willing to like go for it and show that they really want something because what if they get rejected? Or what if the other person's not doing their part? Or what if blah, 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 blah. I'm like, look, all we can control is us and what we're doing and thinking and saying and believing. I can't change the rest of the world. I can't forcibly like make those things change. The way that the world slowly changes is enough individuals doing the work on themselves and with themselves, right? To create different experiences within themselves where maybe, right, they're more happy, they're more peaceful, they have more energy, they have more patience, they have more compassion. Sometimes they have they're listening better to their own internal rage. Right? They're acknowledging and honoring their symptoms and their feelings. They're not trying to fix themselves into oblivion. They're not thinking, oh, I'm fucked up, I'm screwed up, I'm broken. They just might be aware that there's been some things, but sometimes those things that we don't like about ourselves, this is a whole other episode. People, I'll just go here. I'll take a tiny, 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 right, detour. If you tell somebody that they shouldn't feel angry, they need to get rid of their anger, right? Now, I'm not talking people who are going out into the world and inflicting harm on people or themselves. I'm just saying, sometimes people don't like when women are angry. They call angry women. Sometimes women need to get fucking angry so that we'll stop putting up with nonsense. Right? Sometimes that anger is theirs because when you were a kid, somebody put their hands on you and you couldn't say no because you didn't have any power because you were a little kid. And that anger is going to be the thing that allows you to now use your voice or say no or say stop or to make a change or to end the relationship or to leave or whatever the thing is. So we like to pathologize everything and label things good, bad, whatever. I'm not saying that all the old things are horrible, that you need to change everything. But if certain things are causing you pain and suffering, and they're getting in the way of you having these things over here on the right that you say that you want, then there has to be a willingness. And I'm pointing back to that hand with the red arrows that's holding on to the old ways, right? You cannot get here, right? Or you cannot get there, I'm pointing at the new ones, from here by doing the same old, same old. There has to be some willingness to change. So I hope this has been, I don't know, helpful in some way, beneficial in some way. And if it has, share it with somebody, share this episode with somebody, right? And just maybe take a few moments to get clear with yourself. If there's some part of you that's trying to become, if there's some part of you that wants to be a new way or think a new way, these are all the things that like we do in the nest. We talk about meditation, we talk about daily spiritual practice, we talk about just the whole being human experience and what is some really good resources and tools for creating change and transformation in our life should we need it and want it. And here's the thing. When you're trying to make change, you want to put yourself in environments where change is already happening, where change is the normal thing. If you want to become somebody who wants to become more patient, you don't go and join the impatient people's group. You know what I mean? When you're trying to make change, this is why, like, if you're trying to make change, and yes, of course, if you're self-motivated, you can work out at home in your basement, buy a whole gym, do all that stuff. But if you're somebody who wants to create change in your physical capacity and your strength, your cardio, whatever, that's why people join gyms. They go to the place where that new behavior is normalized. It's already happening. You can be influenced. You can be inspired, right? So if everybody that you hang out with are negative Nellies and you're trying to have more positivity and gratitude or whatever in your life, right? You might want to like find a place where that's happening. And the nest is one of those places where change work is going on. That's all I'm saying. And if you want to learn more about the nest or any of the stuff that I do, just go to KarenKenney.com, right? It's so easy to find all the things that I'm up to. Yoga and Thai yoga massage and the nest and my hot to hot days. My hot to hot days are really fun. It's just like having a coach in your pocket. It's like 3 hours of coaching over Voxa, a voice app. It's so easy. You don't even have to put on makeup, get on a call, do anything, right? You can just talk to me through the phone. It's so much fun. All those things are on my website, right? The nest and coaching and Thai yoga massage, all that shit. So you can find it all there. So you guys, I've loved spending a little bit of time with you today. I hope wherever you are and whatever you're doing, you're having some sort of fun. It is insane out there. It is insane out there, but there's always hope. We just saw this past weekend that there was a shit ton of people out for the No Kings protests. And it just feels good to know that there are a lot of people out there that care about themselves, care about justice, care about what's right and what's fair, and they care about their fellow human beings and the environment, etc. And so that was hopeful. All right. Well, thank you so much for tuning in. Wherever you go, may you leave the animals and the people and yourself and the planet and the environment better than how you found it. Wherever you go, may you and your presence and your love and your energy be a blessing. Bye.